You've all heard the indictment. Journalists, they live in Manhattan and Malibu and Georgetown and these sort of media bubbles, and they mostly know people like themselves. And therefore, they were just completely and totally disconnected, unprepared, not understanding the millions of Americans who live out there in the heartland, and many of whom voted for Donald Trump. I think even most journalists, pundits, news organizations, executive editors, and producers have acknowledged this was a real problem in 2016. So with all the negative coverage of the new president, the one thing I'm finding a little bit heartening is an effort to actually put reporters on airplanes or get in the car and go out and talk to real voters who supported Donald Trump and see what he's thinking now. And by a sheer coincidence, there were two such pieces yesterday in major American newspapers. The one in the New York Times was headlined, "In Ohio County that backed Trump, word of housing cuts stirs fear." The one in the Washington Post, which was done from Oklahoma, says Trump's budget would hit rural towns especially hard, but they're willing to trust him. And so, I give both news organizations credit, but, there's two different ways you can do this. You can go out with a sort of a condescending thesis that, boy, these people didn't know what they were getting. Now President Trump is cutting the budget. It's hitting programs they like. And boy, are they ticked off, and they're realizing what a bad error they made. And then you can do the other approach, which is actually, sort of listen to what people are saying and whether they have mixed feelings about this sort of thing. So the piece by the Times from Ohio led off with a man who has multiple sclerosis. He can no longer work. Talk to him and his wife. Their house is falling apart. They were able to use a federal program called Home to make some repairs. Now that program is targeted in the Trump budget for elimination. So you might expect they're going to trash Trump. Actually, there's a bit of a disagreement between the husband and the wife. The wife is hoping the president will reconsider. The husband feels like what Trump is doing on immigration is more important than fixing up his bathroom. And then the Post, which went to Oklahoma, as I said, found various people whose housing aid or other kinds of programs might be affected, including a 77-year-old woman who is a widow, and her lifeline to sort of the outside world is the Senior Citizen Center, which could be cut. And now she feels like that's one strike against the president that she voted for, but she's still willing to give him a chance. So, mixed reactions. And this really brings up the problems. This way predates Trump of cutting the federal budget, which is every program is in there that's got a constituency, people who depend on it. Sure, there's lots of waste and overlap and duplication and abuse, but not all these programs are wasteful. And so everybody loves cut the budget. Government shouldn't live beyond its means. In the abstract, when we get down to cutting the specific programs, not to mention the big ticket items like Social Security and Medicare, which, by the way, Trump has promised to protect, it doesn't look so good. Or in other words, they view it very differently if it affects something that they think is important because it's in their community. It's something that they themselves may use. So I think this is a kind of reporting we should see more of rather than just people like me sitting in air-conditioned studios. Get out in the real America, talk to people, see the impact of the cuts, look at both sides, and figure out whether, in fact, the president is losing support because of the sometimes difficult decisions he's having to make, or whether people understand that cutting the size of government involves some pain.